What's up, guys? I'm Old Painless. Today we are checking out Mastermind Creations' latest release in their Studio Ox inspired masterpiece line. And of course I'm talking about Backdraft. This is their second figure in their Ocular Max sort of subdivision. It's their what they dubbed the Perfection series. So they had their Mirage or Sphinx that came out last year. Technically, I guess they did have their Ravage, which is the cassette update, although I believe that's another sort of subdivision, which is being dubbed as Remix. And hopefully we'll see the other tapes revisited. I know they've kind of teased a Frenzy and Rumble, and they've actually shown a prototype for Laserbeak. But I'm rambling on here. What's really important today is that we're checking out this guy. And I'm not going to tiptoe around this. I've been really excited about this figure. I was very much blown away by their Sphinx or Mirage Masterpiece rendition. So this is what I've been looking forward to, and I'm really happy that I finally got this guy delivered yesterday. So I've had some hands-on experience. Definitely messed around with him quite a bit over the last day or so, and I'm really happy to show him off to you guys. So without further ado, we'll take a quick look at the packaging. It's really nice. I think it's worth taking a look at just because the presentation is so well done. But we're not going to dwell on that too long, so just bear with me. Let me gush over this a little bit. And here we have the box for Backdraft. Again, I don't want to dwell too long on this, but super well done. Really has a nice sort of retro look to it. A great sort of anime-esque rendition of Backdraft here in the front. I believe it's done by Choco King. We'll show that off in just a second here. But yeah, I'm just really impressed by this presentation. I think it is worth showing off because a lot of care and time and effort went into this, more so than other companies' products I've seen out there. Really cool too. We have the little bio and then the classic G1 sort of tech specs, and we do get a little red strip included as well, so you can kind of put that over and read the stat line and all that stuff too. So just very well done. And one thing I really wanted to show off is that they actually really care about their product, down to the packaging and the designers and everything else. Just really well done. Even Paid for Life is mentioned in here for the online video manual. So great stuff, guys. Really enjoy what Mastermind Creations is doing here, so props to these guys. And per usual, we'll just do a quick recap of what comes in the box. Instructions, fairly well done. Good stuff. Credits on the back again. And we have a little decal sheet, sort of sticker guide, so in case you do want to use the included stickers, they give you a good idea of where to place the different stickers on the product. So, that's nice. Inside we do have the sticker sheet, 2 languages. That's pretty cool. We do get a collector's card as well inside there, plus the little pink strip for the tech sheet I mentioned before, our tech specs. And just to emphasize, they do have a warning, a label kind of stickied onto the back of this plastic, just to kind of point out some maybe potential fragile areas, not to sort of, grab the shoulder pauldrons to manipulate the arm joints and stuff, but just to handle it correctly, so you're not going to have any risks of breakage. But good stuff. And then we do have an additional head sculpt. Now, to be fair, this one does come pre-installed, and I do like the look of this one better, but we'll talk a little bit more about this. I feel like it's just a little bit too small for the actual body. The face, that is, just kind of feels dwarfed in this bigger helmet. And even though I prefer this look in this head sculpt versus the other that I have swapped onto it, I just think proportionally this one just feels a touch too small. But just to emphasize, you can kind of poke these little head pieces outwards to kind of give you a bigger headdress, I guess. This head sculpt is very cleanly done. I love the look of that. Has sort of a soft face, but nice chiseled details like the lips and nose, and the eyes are very well done. Fans Toys, take notes from these sculptors. This is how you do a proper organic head sculpt. Very nicely done. And then obviously you pop the screw out. This goes over the ball joint on the bottom. You pop it back into place, and you are good to go. And here we have Backdraft, or Inferno, in his fire truck mode. And right off the bat, compared to some of the other options out there, like Make Toys, and obviously Takara has an official masterpiece coming out, as well as X-Transbots. So there's going to be some options, and again, we'll touch upon some of the different choices in the final thoughts here, but this, of the 3 or 4 total options, has the most realistic alt mode. They did a really clean design here by having the arms actually concealed in these flaps, as well as these extendable pieces. So I really like this alt mode, scale aside that is. But lots of really nice sculpted details, rubber wheels. We have these metallic pieces here which can slide out. One side's a bit tougher than the other for me, so tolerance is going to be a point of discussion for this figure, but pretty cool little details. You can have these little stabilizers pop out. These really nice plastic hoses are also sculpted onto the side, painted very cleanly, very well done right there. Some chrome engine block detailing along the side and some other sort of silver painted details. And we even have like sort of a fire hose nozzle here too, which is pretty cool. That's articulated. And just little, silver accents along the exterior of the figure. This does get a little gappy towards the back, but from my eye, it's fairly acceptable. I don't mind that too much. I do like the chrome bumper quite a bit. We have the different colored tail lights, which is nice, and then the wings are kind of clever. They do have these little silver tipped pieces here on the wing itself from the bot mode, and these actually are modeled and designed to function as sort of an exhaust for the truck. So really cool, very nice design. And if you do notice, there is some sort of gappage here, and you can kind of play around with this a bit. Again, I'm going to touch upon that a little bit more later on in the review. Again, tolerances are going to be a point of discussion for this figure, but overall, I think it's a really nice truck mode. Really prefer how they did this design too, with the darkened windshield and window assembly. Kind of hides all the kibbly bits and stuff on the inside. And even we have some sort of a softer plastic side view mirror, which I believe is a detail that's going to be missing on the official Takara version, oddly enough. But very nice chrome across the front. Looks very clean. I have heard some people have had some chipping and stuff going on. Mine looks really good, so I can't really comment on that. The only sort of noticeable issue I'd have is maybe some minor scuffage on the orangish light there in the headlight. But overall, I'm very happy with this alt mode. A lot of details, a lot of chrome and silver accents, and of course, just to show this off, you do get an extendable ladder, which gets you, a fair amount of height. It does feel like a thinner plastic, so I would be a little bit careful with this. But I certainly don't feel like it's going to break or snap in any way. I do like the little chrome nozzle on the tip there as well. And one feature just to show off is that this piece actually kind of acts as a piston. It doesn't really secure into any particular place. It kind of sits there on the top of the truck. But it does actually extend, so you have a functional piston sort of mechanism there, which is pretty cool. It's a nice little touch, and this does rotate as well. And just to show off some quick scale comparisons, here's my trusty Masterpiece Sideswipe. So, aesthetically, I think these work really well together. This actually has a pretty noticeably maybe more of an orangish tone to the red. But I have to say, the paint on the Mastermind Creations looks really nice. It's got a really kind of a nice high gloss finish to it. It almost makes this guy look a bit dull in comparison. The biggest issue really with this, as well as arguably Make Toys as well, and we'll see about X-Transbots and the official Takara, but this does look a bit small. Obviously, if you're looking at a fire truck, this is based on a real-life vehicle, but still, you'd sort of picture this to be just a bit larger, especially next to like Optimus Prime in his semi-trailer or semi-truck mode. But, for me, this is going to be displayed in robot mode. It's kind of a moot point, but it is worth noting in case you are sort of a scale fanatic. But again, overall, I think aesthetically this does work very well. But enough about the truck mode. I think they did a pretty killer job on this. What we really want to get into is the robot. So let's jump into the transformation. I'm going to point out some particular areas, and we'll get this guy in robot mode so we can check him out. Alright, get that ladder out of the way, and just loosen up these flaps on top. We can slide these down. This is an area that we do want to focus on. It does feel pretty robust. I'm not concerned about these breaking. I have heard, though, that some of the production samples had some stress marks, so be careful. What we want to do is kind of lift and extend outwards. And this has gotten easier the more I've actually transformed it. But that's going to unlock the whole arm assembly from the legs. So let's go ahead and focus on that. Go ahead and rotate up this piece here. We can spread these hip flaps outwards, and that's going to loosely peg into the waist right there. Coming down to the feet, rotate 90 degrees, fold that cap to create a nice sort of flush line there. And this joint is going to accordion in like so. Be careful though, if this is extended in any way, it's going to actually obstruct this from going in completely, so make sure that these metal or die cast pieces are pushed all the way in. But you can then push this in firmly, and this will kind of tab into place. So coming back here, we're going to just pull out the rifle. There's a nice little storage option there. And while we're in this area, I do want to emphasize these two holes. These are actually what's going to line up with two pegs on the feet. These right here. And this is one of the tolerance issues I'm going to touch on really quickly. They do peg in, but it's almost too tight of a fit. And I found even without the rifle attached to the back here, this really would not, out of the box, in vehicle mode, kind of tab together properly. So what I ended up doing was I took a little X-Acto knife and I shaved like a millimeter, maybe like 1/8 of an inch, off both of these little tabs. Not the long way, but the short direction. It took literally like 30 seconds to do. And with the rifle actually not stored in vehicle mode, this guy tabs together like a champ. Like there's no tabs or anything popping out. The bumper I initially showed you, the rear bumper, actually fits super firm and tight. So I need to analyze this a bit more, how it sort of sits into this section and how things peg together. This is what's causing any of the additional tolerance issues I have in terms of pegging things together cleanly in vehicle mode. But super, super quick, easy mod you can do just to sort of shave those pegs down a touch. Shoutouts to TFW boards. I forget who had mentioned it, but they mentioned just sort of shaving that down is going to really make the transformation back to alt mode much, much smoother. So, good stuff. From here, we can just fold these down. And we can focus on the arm assembly now. Go ahead and pop both of these panels open. And one detail I didn't mention is that this actually has a fully sculpted cab on the inside. So you can actually pop your masterpiece, chip or whoever actually into the cab here. I mean, that's such a cool little detail. So just like that little warning label I showed you before, don't manipulate this arm assembly by the shoulder joint. Instead, what we want to do is just use the arm bulk itself to pull that forward. We can rotate that. And then this joint is actually on a slider, so you push that forward. Then from here, rotate, extend the arm down, extend the shoulder. Just rotate the arm so that this section is pointed forward. You don't want that little screw hole visible at the bottom right there. Alright, so the arm's done. We can just rotate the head up. It's going to peg into the top right there. Nice and firm. And now we can attack this back section. So the easiest way to maneuver these, fold down, rotate 180. And then fold the wing up like so. So down, 180, and up. That can be a little scary, but rotate that joint down 180 so the silver's underneath. Make sure these sections are fully compressed, and that's going to allow you to slide and compress those two assemblies together. And then just condense the backpack, condense that down, and then this is just going to peg into place like so. And we can adjust the wings accordingly. The last detail, and this is kind of cool because you can do it on both arms. No parts forming needed, just fold that flap down. You can rotate the nozzle in, which flips out the hand. And then there we go. And the last detail, you can fully extend this if you'd like to. I typically go about halfway. And here we have Backdraft in his robot mode. And man, this really just screams Inferno to me. I mean, some people have kind of complained that he looks maybe a little tall or a little lanky, especially around this sort of midsection here. It really doesn't bother me at all. In hand, this thing is super impressive. Just to get you an idea of scale, there he is with the same line, Ocular Max Sphinx for MMC, and then we do have an official Prowl here. And man, they look really good. I think aesthetically, this line, Ocular Max line, just fits right in with Masterpiece, no problem. But let's look at some details and some articulation here. Head's on a ball joint. Gets you a great amount of up and down motion, especially the up motion, pretty well. We do get a good amount of left and right rotation, even with this sort of bigger box around his head. Doesn't really hamper any of that motion. The chromed little hose here does go up and down, which looks nice. These wings can rotate fully. You can kind of angle them around, put them back if you want to. It would have been nice to maybe have some sort of tabbing mechanism on these. This is one of my few complaints for the bot mode. It just feels like if you tend to pose your figure a lot, you're going to be going back to address these after everything's all kind of set up. But kind of a minor thing, but it is a bit of an annoyance. Shoulders do go up, and you get plenty of play, as you can see, in this pauldron here. This little chrome piece can kind of adjust to accommodate the upward bend. The shoulders ratcheted, it's gorgeous. The upper bicep swivel is ratcheted. Oh, so nice. Double jointed elbows, super nice. Rotation at the wrist. The hands are nice. The hands are a little different than the typical Masterpiece. We have a ball jointed thumb, which does pop off a fair amount, so be careful with this. All four fingers are individually pinned at the base knuckle, and then the trigger finger here has one additional point of articulation. So you can get some fairly expressive positions for the fingers in the hand. Speaking of, we can actually get the rifle out. This barrel extends. It does have a little bit of paint on there. Don't really recall that being G1 accurate, but it looks decent enough. And it does have this sort of standard peg system for the hand. These hands really don't hold it very well. It typically has a tendency to want to just pop back out. But the good thing is even with this handle kind of fighting the hand or the fingers are strong enough to kind of secure that into place. So that feels pretty good. Waist rotation. Can't really tell, but it feels like it has maybe a soft indent as you get to a further angle. Can't confirm that though. And we do get an ab crunch as well as a backward motion for the transformation, but that's really nice too. Unlike Make Toys hip skirts, these are individually articulated, so no chance of these breaking. Nice stiff ratchets. You get all the motion you'd want out of that hip joint, as well as outward motion. Outward is not ratcheted, but it's nice and firm. And then we do get a double jointed knee, so base knee joint gets you here, and you can break the sculpt a little bit by rotating on this position, which still looks okay, but you can really get all the articulation you want out of this big bot. And there's no ankle rocker, but you do get a hell of a lot of foot motion here, which is great. And to top it off, man, you get a freaking toe rocker here too. That's insane. So just a super articulated, really nice figure. Oh, and did I mention ratcheted thigh swivels? Oh, too nice. And obviously you get your ankle tilt there as well. So tons of articulation. Especially impressive for a big robot like this. And just looking at details here, I mean, I really enjoyed this head sculpt. It's one that looked a little bit derpy from the initial proto pics and whatnot. And the smirk kind of gets me a little bit. It's not something... I think I would have liked a more neutral face versus the smirk right there. But this looks a lot better in person. And just for a comparison, you can kind of see what I mean about having a head that looks a little bit too small with this one. The face is just physically too small, I think, for this body. I love this head sculpt, but it just looks a touch too small to me. Just like on the alt mode, the paint really pops here. It's super high gloss, really nice red. Matches the plastic really well too. Even the plastic that's not painted, I don't believe it's painted, but that's super high gloss and shiny on top of that. And just lots of little chrome and silver accents all around. Really sort of sets this figure off. A little bit of paint slop on the helmet, a little bit of overspray on the gray face onto the black cap, as well as a little bit of overspray on the sort of orange or yellowish accents up on top. That's my main and really my only issue in terms of paint application. But even with that on there and being such a focal point for the figure, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, I really, unless I look closely at it, I'm not going to notice it. This is an issue. This has a peg, and there's certainly a peg hole there, but it doesn't actually secure or lock into place. So if you do maneuver this around quite a bit, this is probably going to come loose. You just have to kind of press that back up. Luckily, though, the friction will hold this into place pretty well. But Mastermind Creations is aware of that. They're apparently producing a replacement part for this. Don't hold me to that, but I have heard that they are addressing this. So hopefully we get a replacement piece we can pop on for the figure. We have a lot of sculpted detail on the leg, the foot here, some line work on the arms as well. I mean, these are all nods to the G1 toy. So something that Takara is not really doing on their masterpiece Inferno, they're going straight off the cartoon screen for accuracy, which I know a lot of people are going to enjoy, and that's totally fine. But for me, I kind of enjoy that hybrid G1 toy and G1 cartoon look, and I feel like they have a really nice balance here in terms of just the aesthetic of this figure. Speaking of that G1 toy hybrid, these aren't even functional, but they went ahead and sculpted on the original kind of like a toy fist slider type of element there on the inside and outside of the forearm. So just little nice touches like that. You don't see that on a lot of people's figures. It just really sort of sets them above a lot of the other products out there. Now let's talk about tolerances. That's been my main issue with this figure, and the reason why it's kind of holding it back from being like a knockout figure for me. I mean, obviously we talked about the tabbing issue in the vehicle mode, and again, there's a quick fix. You can kind of work on those pegs, and if you don't put the gun into the vehicle storage, I mean, it's going to peg together like a champ. Hopefully I can figure out a better way to get this to kind of peg into place. I mean, currently as is, with this installed in vehicle mode, it still sits really well and pretty cleanly, just not as tightly as I'd like it to be. These feet, initially I thought there might have been an ankle rotation. This one in particular was super loose and actually had some play left to right, but it's not designed to. This black piece, it runs up inside the leg here, the lower leg, and what I ended up having to do was just when you unpeg this, there are 3 screws on the inside. You can pop these out, which separates these 2 pieces of plastic on the lower leg. And that gives you access to then tighten up a piece of additional black plastic that holds this piece into place. So I gave it a couple twists of the screwdriver, and these are super firm now. Other tolerances, this toe joint, even though I've loosened it up a little bit, is super tight compared to this toe joint. You know, just a little bit of inconsistencies like that. These pieces here, you can kind of see the silver cannon. It kind of sits off center on this black wrist. And this will actually... Another issue I have is that while this is a really clever design to have a rotatable nozzle or hand design, and as you can see I swapped the hand around on this side, it's on a mushroom peg, the silver cannon piece. As a result, sometimes this kind of gets a little bit off-centered. It kind of pushes towards the hole here. So I find myself, not all the time, but sometimes having to sort of adjust, you know, this piece back tighter into the wrist. And these can pop off too, but luckily it's not like a damaged figure. It just slides back in easily enough. But despite my complaints on tolerances and some of the slight modifications I've had to make, This figure is a resounding success in my eyes, and that's going to lead me into my final thoughts on Ocular Max's Backdraft here. There are a lot of options for masterpiece-styled figures, and in particular, there's going to be a total of 4 for Inferno alone within the next, probably by the end of the year, if not early into next year. We do have Make Toys already in the market. This is the second option. The official masterpiece from Takara should be here, I believe, in November, and then X-Transbots will be showing up maybe this year. Who knows? There's really no estimated date yet for those guys. So you have to ask yourself, what do you want out of a masterpiece figure? Make Toys, Takara, X-Transbots, Ocular Max, they all look really good. And while they all look really good, interestingly enough, they all have a really unique presence on a shelf. So just to touch on that really quickly, Make Toys sort of has a tendency to sort of emphasize G1 toy details and aesthetics into their actual figure designs. Their figure's a touch shorter than this Inferno. It's also a bit wider in the chest, with a slightly larger vehicle mode. So maybe if that's something you're looking for, if you really enjoy that G1 toy aesthetic, Make Toys has a pretty good option for you. Alternatively, the Takara is going the complete polar opposite of Make Toys, and they're going for a TV G1 cartoon look. And that seems to be their new direction for their figures. And some people love that, some people don't. Some people kind of like a hybrid look. I really like what Takara did. In fact, while we're looking at this here, they've actually condensed the entire ladder on the Takara inside the bot, inside the torso. So that's a really clever, cool idea. This, however, looks really nicely done too. It's a pretty clean backpack, especially compared to what X-Transbots and Make or Make Toys is doing. So very good look there. But the downside, I think, to Takara's is that they're sort of deviating away from any of the toy aesthetics. So instead of having some nice detailing like on lower legs or arms, you're getting sort of flat surfaces, which again, it might be your taste, but for me, I really like this sort of subtle detailing. This reminds me of my Inferno that I had as a child, playing with that figure. And then in terms of X-Transbots, not really a lot has been shown. I mean, we've seen some prototype photos. What I can speak to that figure, though, is that it will be the largest alt, or fire truck mode, and potentially, and more than likely, the largest bot mode. So in case you're looking for alt mode authenticity and you want the bigger scale, X-Transbots might be the way to go. So where does this leave Ocular Max? I think it's actually left in a pretty damn good place, because this, to me, is a perfect hybrid of G1 cartoon, G1 toy. On top of that, it has a Studio Ox sort of styling and influence throughout the body, and it looks freaking amazing. Like, I just love the proportions, the aesthetics. I like what they really went for with this figure. And to top it off, they actually have the most accurate licensed vehicle mode, alt mode. And not only does this ooze its own unique sort of style and flavor, it meshes so well with that G1 aesthetic and the masterpiece aesthetic. Should you buy this figure? I kind of mentioned this a lot in my reviews, but a lot of it's going to come down to personal tastes, wants, and needs for your shelf. If you like this style and like this look, though, you will not be disappointed. And the good news is, despite some of those tolerance issues, they are super easy to modify and fix up. I mean, I've probably done a total of like 2 to 3 minutes of work on this toy, and it's improved it. And sort of those little minor tweaks have already improved my enjoyment of the figure that much more. It is a super slick representation of a masterpiece Inferno. Surprisingly hefty. I mean, there's such an ample amount of die cast throughout the figure. The paint and plastic is just super clean, super sharp. I mean, I think if you like what Ocular Max has done thus far, this, in my eyes, is actually improving on the formula, and it makes me super excited for their Trailbreaker they've just announced and shown off at the TFCon, and I'm really interested in seeing what they're going to do with their Ocular Max Jazz as well. But guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. Please leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. are you kind of leaning towards the Ocular Max Studio Ox design, or are you looking towards Make Toys? Or have you already bought the Make Toys, and are you happy with that figure? Or are you guys dead set on that Takara, cartoon look? Again, that's for a backpack. Man, that's so impressive. I mean, it's not Takara inside the body, but that is super, super clean. Whew. Guys, thanks for watching. Have a good night.